Welcome to Running in the 70s, where we interview, meet, and get to know athletes of all kind who were running in the 70s. I'm your host, Matthew Kleinowski. Welcome back to part 2 with Nobby Hashizume, co-founder of the Lydiard Academy and the founder of the new International Running Academy, Lydiard and beyond. Enjoy. In the first two Olympics of the 1960s, the running world was turned upside down. Arthur Lydiard showed up with a group of local runners from New Zealand that were relatively unknown and changed so many people's view of running, and someone who has achieved mastery level of the Lydiard system and coaching. Today, someone who knows just about everybody in running, has great stories, has been all over the world. Meet today, Buya Hashizume. Nobby, how'd I do in your name?
Yeah, that's not bad at all. Yeah, Nobby's much better.
Let's talk about what's going on with you. Personally, you just had surgery and you're embarking on this new organization. How's the recovery going and how are you dealing with that? And then your new international running organization, how will it be different in operations from what you've been working on the Lydiard Training Academy?
My surgery is going very slow. It's frustratingly slow, but I trying to remind myself that recovery is slower if you're older. Also, apparently, Anne O'Dane, you just interviewed her. She had, I guess, the same kind of surgery, of course, younger time. She said, "Oh, you'll be running freely no time after 8 weeks." And I got 8 weeks. It's only been 3.5 weeks. I guess I got to be patient. Interestingly, when I do trotting action, it doesn't hurt. When I walk, it hurts. And yeah, I'm sure it's the angle or something. My wife hates it when I'm trotting along the kitchen and I go, "This is not a running track. Why are you trotting in the kitchen?" I guess I just have to live with it. It's frustrating in a sense that I had a pain. That's why I had a surgery. And after surgery, I still have a pain. Is it different pain? Is it going to go away? It's a little unnerving, but I guess we just have to wait and see. Now, National Running Academy, in a way, as you might have noticed, I'm just a big running fan. I just classified myself as a big fan of sport of running. And in a way, the name Lydiard restricted me. That I always felt I had a privilege to meet Bob Schewel, a really nice guy, once again. I've posted his pictures or his bio and stuff like that. Peter Snell said one time, "Oh, Bob Schewel, he's the complete opposite of Lydiard. And everything was interval, Igloy coached." So within the scope of Lydiard Training Academy, am I not supposed to talk about Bob Schewel? How about Juan Torina? There's certain restriction I always felt. So I wanted to expand and I want to get more into running in general. And of course, one of the guys said, my route is Lydiard, Bowerman, and Japan. And that's probably right. I do focus more on Lydiard athletes. I always try to pay attention to what's going on in New Zealand athletics because I know Arthur would have loved to. Would Arthur like to see this post on Facebook? So that's how I think about how I post. And the same thing with Bowerman. Now, Bowerman, I noticed, it's been taking forever, but I've been reading Phil Knight's Shoe Dog. And again, I talk to people like Jack Welch. And there's a lot of negativity, and unfortunately, maybe rightfully so, toward Nike. They became McDonald's and Coca-Cola of shoe industry.
Yeah.
There's some bullying and wrong decision and stuff like that. But at the same time, coming from 70s and running in the 80s, I really believe that without Nike, running would have been very different today. Nike was probably the only company back in the 70s, maybe Onitsuka Tiger in Japan, but not the global scene. But Nike really put in a lot of time and effort and money into helping athletes and helping sport. Bowerman definitely was right in the middle of it. And once again, I guess I was one of the lucky individuals to have known someone like Bowerman in person. If I could share what I've known about him or people like Lydiard or Quacks, I guess I want to bring their human image down to everybody's level so they can actually see a glimpse of who they were, not just Lydia training and Bowerman waffle saw or things like that.
Exactly. I think that's what's really fascinating to talk with you about, because you relate to these people. I can see in your mind as you're thinking back to all the many interactions with them and how you think about them and trying to say it in just a few words to represent them. Yeah, Nike, the Olympic trials in the middle of the 70s, and their shoe boom really helped shorter winning the trials, and everybody from Rod Dixon wearing their shoes, and they took over. And maybe they missed this, whatever the newer wave of running is now, the boom. Nike hasn't participated the same way or in the same dominant way. The company diversified into other things, and basketball shoes and so many other things that are more key drivers. There's an athlete from Pennsylvania who was a 4-minute miler, Gary Martin, got an NIL with New Balance, and a key part of his contract was community service. And he talks about, when I wanted to sign the contract, I said, what's going to be involved here and how I get involved with the community? And of course, Salman and some of these other athletes are now getting contracts that involve that and bring lesser known names. Gary Martin didn't make the finals of the 1500 at the trials, although Salman's going to the Olympics. It's bringing these names a little forward. At age 20, 21, that could be a challenge too. The psychological management of athletes, when you're working with elite athletes, now have another thing on their plate: social media.
You do need a team. It is very frustrating to me knowing what I know about Japanese system. It's very different, and mentality is very different too. I don't know if it ever going to work in the US, but that will be something looking into the future, and maybe next however many more years that I could live, 10, 20 years. If I could somehow even modified form to bring that, if I can get some non-running related company to chime in, and let's face it, there are a lot of smart athletes, and they have to give up their brain to focus on running or Olympics or whatever in their 20s. And to me, it's a waste. And it's digressing a little bit, but once you have a corporate team or the team to help the athletes, and see, the problem in the US, you have good athletes, bunch of people, okay, help this guy. There's no way anybody can afford to have, the social media guy and the caretaker and the masseuse and nutritionist and yada, yada, yada. You're talking about 12 different people. Now, if you have
they don't have the Tom Brady team,
but if you have 10 athletes and maybe one or two good ones, then having a dozen people to support the team actually becomes more realistic. In the US, good athletes, they win a race and they pick up their money. That's not how it works in Japan. You are still an employee of the company. So you still work however little it might be, 3, 4, 5 hours a day, but you still work in the office. The biggest advantage of this, you get hurt, you go back to the office. Company will still pay you, and you're still on the team, so company would send you to get massage or treatment or whatever. You just don't train like other people. But in this country, if you get hurt, you're out of luck. You're out of paycheck.
Yeah. Athletics West may have been a bit like that in the 70s for some of those athletes. Ron Addison, as he was getting hurt at the end of his steeplechase career, was working in the office and he got great treatment from them. When it ended, yeah, he had a soft landing. Michael Johnson's new track league does not look like it's going in the direction you would go. It seems to be, let's get the superstars signed.
Yeah. I guess they are focusing so much on revitalizing the sport. And to do that, you need superstars to begin with. They are not looking at developing superstar because it'll take 3, 4, 5 years. So they're not interested in that. They just pick already good ones. Unfortunately, that's how they were treated. Michael Johnson, Carl Lewis, whoever. Those guys were good. I actually had a talk with one of the, at the time, elite runners to maybe possibly help this kind of movement and up and coming runners. He actually basically said, hey, I worked my way up. Let them work their way up. I said, okay, well.
Yeah, that kind of thinking is pretty common the world over in virtually every organization. Yeah. Quite interesting. What is the status of the International Running Academy and launch? And are you going to scale up? It exists, but is there going to be a publicity push, or are you going to? How are you going to do that?
I guess I need to make an official announcement. I picked some people to help me out as a board member, and I do have certain field of like athletic shoes, for example. There's a guy who knows a lot about shoes, and I know a lot too, but we can probably work together. A website really helps to have website and internet, have a page on shoes. And, anno then we've been talking about, racing in 80s. There's nobody better than the road racing in the 80s than Anne. Maybe talk more about racing, how she sees or how she saw the road races or the development of road races in the 80s. I guess I'm going to continue calling it linear training because, what I know about correct training curtail linear training. But once again, if we try to make it in the form of coaching certificate, there's no point of talking about any training without talking about delivery. I've already put together the coaching for coaches. I just need to pick the date. I'm still thinking about Zoom is great, but I guess I'm old fashioned. I still want to go to places and have the weekend to do the whole shebang. And it might be a little challenging because I have a loud voice. After about 2 days, my voice gets really scratchy. There are quite a few different presentations that I've already put together during the COVID time. History of training, coaching, high school training, and shoes and form. And I'm trying to recruit people to talk about nutrition and physiology because I'm not qualified to talk about those things. I put it all together as a whole packet. Just try to focus more on education. Hopefully, if we start getting funding, I do want to start some sort of scholarship. I've talked to my friend down in New Zealand too, but when you look at athletes that Lydia dealt with, Peter Snell, of course, is the all-around athletes. Marie Halberg would be somebody who overcome the adverse condition. Bill Bailey is the versatile athletes. Try to create some scholarship after all these names and say you won the Bill Bailey Award because you're versatile. Something like that. I mean, we're going to talk more about, with the board, how we structure it. Not necessarily old timers, but I just want to bring those back in the days back and say, hey, we had group of runners like these, and we want to keep their name and honor them. And God forbid, if it becomes big enough, maybe we'll do something about, who knows, Bob Sewell or somebody completely off the wall from Lydiard. And, everybody knows I'm the Lydiard guy. But
Yeah.
just switching it to International Running Academy, I think it just opens up for me to talk more about just Lydiard.
Is there a new version of the Running Wizard that is a tool for your organization then? The Running Wizard is pretty much a Lydiard.
Yeah, and I need funding for this, but I've already thought about and I put together the formula ready. It just needs to be worked on. But the Running Wizard is just a plan here and another plan here. And I have the filler. Basically, what you can do is fill up your 52 weeks throughout the year. And instead of buying one plan each time, just do monthly subscription or something. It's cheaper monthly. For example, you run a marathon. We have a recovery plan, anywhere from 2 to 4 weeks, and you should have that. So there's a filler until you start the next one. And so that's, you could say, Running Wizard 2. But figure that it'll probably cost anywhere from 30 to 50,000 to do that. So, and I do have one other program about kids running. And once again, it'll involve some website, a little bit of a programming, but just to encourage young kids to participate, not just running. I was working on this alternative exercise equivalent of running a mile with Dick Brown. Just recently, I finished it. You could say, if you don't want to run, that's fine. Play basketball, 20 minutes equivalent to a mile. Swimming this and cycling this, that kind of stuff. So just get young kids to participate in any physical activity more.
Well, you are very busy and continuing to innovate and build new things. Very cool. What about some of these people who have gone on, or at least their careers have ended, who are not known, that part of revitalizing the sport, somebody's going to make movies about some of these older coaches or older athletes? Who would be on your top 3 list of who we need to get somebody to make a movie about and bring into public consciousness in terms of the history of running? Yeah.
Within my scope, one definitely would be Coach Bill Squires. Not too many people seem to talk about it. There are a handful of people, Boston area, of course, they talk about it. But he was one of those guys. Whenever I think about coaching being carrying the athletes, he was one of those people who would give up his bed for his runners and he would be sleeping on a couch. That's the kind of guy he was. And innovative, very smart, energetic, and once again, just very nice guy, generous, nice guy. He was a brilliant coach. Anybody he coached, you ask Greg Meyer, Bob Hodge, Bill Rogers, they would agree with me. He was a brilliant coach. But once again, when you look at Bowerman, Lydiard, Squires, his name doesn't really come up. Yeah, Bill Squires is somebody that I've had a chance to get to know in person, and I guess very much underappreciated. Another one, I don't think he was underappreciated. I think there are a group of people who are very keen on doing something about it. Coach Igloy and Taboli. I know Jacqueline Hansen always talk about them. Another one, once again, complete opposite of Lydiard. But they were, as an athlete as well, but brilliant people. I got to learn a little bit, really scratching the surface, but when I put together a history of training. But that's also, very interesting progression of training. When you think about world record progress for 5,000 and even 10,000, there's a surge of records shooting up. It's all Igloy people and interval training. When you look at it, Lydia training didn't do much to shift the world record. His runners won gold medals and his training was innovative and revolutionary even. But in terms of world record progress, it didn't do much at all. It's all Igloy and Taboli. So, yeah.
Did you know Joe Vigil?
I did, yeah. I did know him, yes. He would recognize me.
Okay.
Yeah, when I brought Arthur to Runners World Party in 2004 at the New York City Marathon, Dina She received some award. Joe Vigil, he went up on the stage because Dina was running, so she didn't attend the party. I brought Arthur, but nobody paid attention, actually. Runners were old, and Arthur was sitting in the corner, and he was old and stuff. But Joe Vigil went up on the stage, and he said, I just want to honor Arthur Lydiard sitting in the corner. Once again, really nice guy. He understands where the respect is due. So I really appreciated his job. No, he's one person that I should know more about and I should learn more about, but I don't. I put together the coach's presentation, and there's one page I did put Joe Vigil's picture and his success, but how he coached. All I know is he's very knowledgeable and very methodical. And other than that, I don't know enough about his training, and I should.
He's listed as a Lydiard disciple.
Oh, yeah.
Right, of course.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Once again, that's how I got to know him. When he found out that I'm a Lydiard guy, he was like, "Oh, Nobby," this and that. So, Barbara Bowerman, after Bill passed away, I kept in touch with her, and she always tells me, "Oh, Nobby always bring circle of friends through running." Every time she says that, I feel like, yeah, circle of friends through Lydiard, because I drop Lydiard name and people just recognize. So
I'm trying to remember how much she shows up in the Shoe Dog book. Not very much. Is there a couple mentions of Mrs. Bowerman? And I don't think there is too much.
No much, I don't think. As far as I'm still having to stay. I'm a slow reader.
Your social media presence contributes to keeping alive and expanding that circle of runners. It seems like you're a hub of commentary, and you're a reliable, non-controversial source of information and concise analysis of what's going on.
I'm not sure if it's a compliment. I guess the thing is, when I post something, and of course, when I was carrying Lydiard, I don't want to make some off-the-wall accusation on some athletes. And people think, oh, don't go to Lydiard because he always talks about this hoax or whatever. So I try to be careful. Not that I'm not going to be careful now. I'm doing International Running Academy, but probably even more so that I don't want to raise non-proven yet accusations. So I try to be somewhat politically correct, and I'm not sure if I like that. Once again, I think of Lydiard and I think of someone like Pre. It was very controversial, and he named names, and why not? And it is hard, especially nowadays with a lot of question mark. In a way, you might guess because there are certain athletes that I don't mention as much.
Yeah, we have to infer. Yeah,
it's because I don't want to go, whoa, world record, great. I don't know.
Okay, so people can do a little bit of mind reading by looking for
reading between them.
Yeah, people like Jack Welch are sometimes a little bit less restrained.
Yeah,
they're filling in the gaps. Yeah.
I certainly talk to certain individuals behind the scene. Yeah, well, I don't know, but I try not to post those things. I don't check other posts as much. If now running International Running Academy Facebook is a hub, that's I feel very happy because I don't care or I don't check how other people are reacting to it. I just like to post, and like I said, quite often I go, would Arthur like this post? New Zealand girl made the Olympic team, 1500, great. Arthur probably would have liked it. Probably more than half of the rest of the world track running fan wouldn't care, but I thought Arthur would like it, so I posted. Whether people think it's, what are you doing with this? I ranked 30th in the world athletes, but I don't care about how other people see it. I post what I like to post, and I was talking to Linda about, like, everybody talks about Breeze people. And I do feel like now it's International Running Academy people. And would people like to see this post? And I post it. And if people actually enjoy those posts, I feel very lucky. And that's good, because I guess in a way, when I was younger, I would have loved to see somebody who would post, oh, Dick Quacks was this kind of person, or Coach Squires said this. And when I went to visit him, he did this. Because, I wouldn't have known anything about their personal level story. If somebody who never had a chance to meet with Bill Bowerman or Bill Squires, to have a glimpse of, oh, this was who he was, that's cool. Just bringing back the dead to life and have fans out there to have an experience with those people.
Absolutely. That's why I certainly enjoy reading what you post. And there are people who will try to take it to an edge, and sometimes you'll do a good job of acknowledging their opinion and then move on. And it doesn't degrade. You do a good job of that. Let me just ask you one that you brought up. In 1972, you saw Frank Shorter on TV win the marathon in Japan. Later, you got to know him and meet him. What happens in your mind when you, over these years, being a super fan of the sport and then becoming friends with and connected to so many of these athletes and people that you saw from afar earlier?
My daughter is a vocal performer. She practiced opera, and her teacher was a really well-known opera singer at Indiana University. And she sang with Pavarotti. That's the level. I always tell her, you're lucky to have somebody who you can call hero. And I always feel like Frank Shorter, Bill Rogers, and Dick Quacks, those three were my heroes. Yeah, later I got to know all three of them in person. Frank Shorter, I probably wouldn't call him a friend. I'm still like Mr. Shorter.
Yeah.
He came to Japan, 5 times and won marathons, all 5 of them. That was just very impressive. You could say that I somewhat worshipped him at the time. And that was interesting. You mentioned Frank. The first time I met him was at Boston Marathon Expo 2004. I met Bill through Coach Squires prior to, so 2001, I already knew him. And as he's such a friendly guy, he remembers everybody's name, and you have to have someone there to limit your visit him like 15 minutes and move on. Otherwise, he's going to continue talking with you at the personal level. Now, you might know Frank is the complete opposite. What's your name? Okay, sign, take a picture, next. You don't even need a minute. Boom, boom, done. But because of my background, like I just told you, when I saw him at the expo, I felt compelled to at least thank him for inspiring me to running. And now circles coming back, and now I'm bringing Arthur Lydiard to the US for the lecture tour, and it was 2004. So I was preparing for it, and I felt compelled to actually thank him. So I went up there, and there's a long line, but like I said, oh, this moves pretty fast. My turn came up. I said, hi, I'm so and so, and I'm from Japan, and I'm actually organizing Arthur Lydiard's lecture tour. He stopped and he looked at me and he said, Arthur Lydiard, that's the name I haven't heard for a long time. And how is he doing? He's slowing down, his knees bothering him, but he's coming to the US and I'm organizing his tour. And he actually listened and he said, oh, that's great you're doing this. And I said, is it okay I take a picture? It's one of those disposable camera back then, 2004. I took a picture and he said, wait, I think I closed my eyes. Let's do it again. And he came out from the booth and we just stood together and took. So I took in all maybe 2 minutes instead of one. but that was the first time I met him, and I was actually moved that he really spent a little extra time talking with me about Lydiard. That was a good encounter. Actually, prior to that, I saw him in Japan, 1985 Hiroshima World Championships, but I'm going.
Yeah,
I couldn't even say hi to him.
that's great. That's a good story. You've got so many of these. I imagine you'll be sharing the stories like these in between things you talk about on tour when you're promoting IRA events.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I know Frank sometimes he could be off and on. He could be certainly not like Bill Rogers. He's not as personable. But there is a side like that. And when you see that, you do have a little different feeling about that individual.
That's really a cool story. It's the first time I had seen and gone to press conferences with elite para athletes. They had the wheelchair 1500 during the main Sydney Games. That was an eye opening thing with the Paralympics talking about their training regimen. 1500 meter guy from France was training 6 hours a day. It
Yeah,
was just
yeah.
eye opening.
Yeah, that's another interesting point because I would love to actually sit down with somebody who knows the speed skating, cross country skiing, and the wheelchair running, the kind of training they do. There's a speed skater I got to know through letsrun.com. I never actually finished the conversation, but he said he's a speed skater, pretty darn good one, in Wisconsin. And of course, Wisconsin, I think, what's her name? Blair.
Bonnie Blair, yeah.
Bonnie Blair. Yeah, Bonnie Blair. He said, "Oh, I'm on the same group." And I said, "Oh, I would love to look into what kind of training they do. I'm doing this Lydiard." And the last email that I received, he said, "Oh, you have no idea what kind of influence Lydiard had." How? I don't know.
Another person listed on the Lydiard Training Academy site as a Lydiard benefactor is Tamaguchi, an ice skater.
Oh, Yamaguchi. Yeah, the Christy Yamaguchi.
Was that her running training for the ice
No,
skating?
she didn't run, but she worked on a stationary bike to raise her VO2 max. Her coach, Christy Ness, she's the member of International Running Academy Facebook, but her husband, Andrew Ness, he's a plastic surgeon. He was a runner in Australia, and he was actually directly coached by Arthur when he was younger. When they took over Christy Yamaguchi's coaching, they figure short program at the time was 2 minutes. That's equivalent to running half a mile. And long program was 4 minutes, and that's equivalent to running a mile. So they tried to raise Christy Yamaguchi's VO2 max by doing stationary bike. And apparently, I don't have the exact number. Her VO2 max came up 48 up to 62 or something like that.
Huh.
And they told me Christy's comment was, I used to get tired of doing jump work after 20 minutes. Now I can do it for an hour.
Wow,
So
that's fascinating. Oh, I want to mention one person to you because I'm good friends with Bill Bailey's son
okay.
from hashing.
I met his daughter when I was talking to him. Yeah, she came home and just say hi level. The really interesting thing about Bill Bailey, I remember, I met with most of Lydiard runners when I was in New Zealand. And Bill Bailey and Barry McGee, they both ran at the time, running in Arthur's EB shoes. Ray Puckett is the one who helped me understand Lydiard training. I literally go visit him every weekend, stayed at his place, and he would take me out for a long run and teach me what he did with training and stuff like that. But so he was running in different shoes other than EB, but he was doing Arthur's shoelace. And Bailey and McGee, they were running in Arthur's EB shoes, but they weren't doing Arthur's lacing. And I thought, that's opposite interest. But Bill Bailey never untied his shoes. He just slipped it on and just got his heel in. And I said, you don't untie your shoes? No, you need to untie your shoes. Never untied his.
It's so fun to talk with you, Nobby. You're very generous with your time. You contribute through social media, keeping a great attitude and a lot of information, positivity as a hub. And good luck with the International Running Academy. I'm sure you're going to attract a lot of people and impact on this coming generation in great ways.
I don't mean to sound like an old fart just looking back in the past. But in a way, people always talk about the problem with Boston Marathon is it's always some Kenyan come out and winning it. And there's no Bill Rogers, the hero. I think in a way the sports need something like that. It's out for everybody now, and God knows how many of them are actually clean. And like I said, and I don't sound like an old fart looking back in the 70s and 60s and even 80s, but we had really good run back then. And I think young people needs to know what was going on back then and how they were running and performing. And Bill Bailey, for example, he was telling me the story of when he came to the US to compete in indoor races. He can't sleep on the plane. And we changed the flight from LA to Hawaii to LA to this and that, and really tough condition, and get out and run some hard races. And don't think that if you don't have $300 super shoes, you can't perform. Hey, those guys were running barefoot.
Again, someone I want to get to just because of the subject matter here is to try to track down Mary Decker. She seems to be well off grid. There are a few people who are friends with her, and maybe if I can get her to listen to a couple of her friends, she would agree to do it, because I think the same thing. I got a lot of people commenting on the YouTube channel about Jerry Lindgren's interviews. I said, I'm here to let people say what they want, not to challenge them. You can challenge them, and there can certainly be a discussion, but there was quite a reaction to that. I'm not here as somebody to strike everybody down, but I like the discussion starting.
Yeah, Jerry, he certainly does blow up some stories. Did you see that movie, Personal Best? It was a really stupid movie.
Was it a hurdler? And was Kenny Moore in that?
Yeah. Anyway, but there's a scene, I can't remember his name. He's supposedly playing, what's his name, Chuck Davis, the real hard-nosed coach. I think he coached Julie Brown. But Meryl Hemingway is running. I know she's got beautiful running form, actually, and the guy's being passed. And he's yelling at him saying, you just let that little pussy pass you, you little shit, or whatever. Whenever I hear Jerry Lindgren talk about, why can't you run 150 miles? I remember that scene. But at the same time, God, what a runner he was. Eating Russians when he was 18, and the tiny little runner running up against Ron Clark and all those guys. That's just incredible. I've never met him. I probably exchanged 2 emails with him. But once again, I go back to his coach, Tracy Walters. He lived in Spokane. I met him because he coached Don Cardone before the Olympics. Don told me about Tracy Walters, a really interesting coach. Before I graduated and went back to Japan, he said, you should meet him. So I did. You can just sense his love for Lindgren. And at the time, he was missing still. Nobody knew where he was. And he was just devastated that Lindgren went hiding. To someone to make this really gentle old coach to love him, there's got to be good quality there. That's how I look at it. So
Yeah,
it's not directly from Jerry, but yeah, this guy, Tracy Walters, just, you can feel that he was devastated that Jerry disappeared.
yeah, walked away.
Last year, when we put together tax, I didn't get a penny from, at the time, Lydia Training and Academy. I don't pay myself. The whole idea of actually starting nonprofit is because I don't want to charge runners and coaches, because I know runners and coaches are poor. Now we do with Running Wizard, but I do want to get to the point where even all the clinics, if not scholarship, let's face it, no buck Rogers. So you got to make money somewhere. But I want to have good donation coming in, so eventually I can do this clinic for free. That's my goal. If I get to that point, like I said, I want to do scholarship to honor some of the runners and coaches. And also here in Minnesota, that Gabby Grunwald died of leukemia. The awareness, Linda, she's doing something with the drunken driving. And I always talk to Linda about somehow I want to encourage inmate to do running program, just like Pri did. So yeah, those programs I would really like to do, and some of the money to help people like Aljanov or Grunwald Foundation or stuff. I do want to.
That's very cool.
Yeah, if I raise enough awareness, so to speak, of what I'm doing, and hopefully get somebody like Inventor or Breeze Ride to help me out financially, then I can really open up and offer what I do to runners and coaches for free.
Yeah, in a little while, maybe some of these people that are looking to spend their billions on things will say, oh, that's something. I don't know you well enough to say, I think a CEO of a 501c does need a salary, at least something. I had a friend who got involved in orphanages in India, and it took a long time for her to take money, but it's good that it doesn't deter you from the effort you can put in, so that's okay.
I want to set this up at this point purely out of my love for the sport. If I can pick up a few bucks here and there so I can take my wife out for dinner, that would be nice.
Yeah, hopefully one of these mega donors will come out of the woodwork. Maybe, I'll tell you. I actually know somebody.
Yeah, shoot me that.
Who's got not a huge amount of money, but a lot of money, and he wants to do something. And I'm going to talk to him about it. Yeah, it's a runner.
The thing is, I have to prove myself that I'm doing a good job. And right now, the website and Facebook is a mean to actually prove that I know a thing or two about running.
You do have a lot of respect among all the running community, but it's got to always get broadened. And this isn't just for runners, maybe even. People that are career runners. Yeah, it's for new people.
Well, the kids program, and the people always love to donate money for kids. And that's a motivation to start out. Of course, that's not the reason why I'm thinking about kids program, but the something to do with kids staying healthy and active. I'll tell you, if you don't mind me not to digress. There's a group, it's a government-funded group in Twin Cities one time about kids' health. I met with them, hopefully maybe we can collaborate or something. The guy said, oh, we don't do any activities. You guys do the activity. We support people like you. And I said, okay, sounds good. I said, how can you support me? And he said, oh, we can just give you some goodies from our sponsor so you can hand it out to your participants. And I said, who's your supporter? Pepsi Cola.
Jeez.
Oh, that'll help for kids' health.
Yeah, give them sugar. Wow. What I didn't know, because I was overseas, the Grandma's Marathon. It was interesting. Somebody in New York mentioned reading Ron Dawes' book. And he never met him. I don't know. Ron Dawes died early. This guy never met him. But how's that marathon doing? Is Grandma still running?
Grandma's doing great. Yeah, Grandma, they just had it last month. They really do a good job. When they had the Marathon and Beyond magazine, and they always rate the best organized marathon and this and that. And Grandma's Marathon always ranked pretty highly. It's a very well organized race. And Scott Keenan, he's already retired as a director. But when he was a director, he talked about the runner-centered race. He was always caring for the runners, and he knows what runners want and needs and stuff like that. The only unfortunate thing is that it's way up in Duluth, and it's literally middle of nowhere. The little town itself doesn't have much to offer. So they jack up the hotel price. Last year, I had 3 or 4 runners from St. Louis, my buddy coaches. They were coming to run. So I wanted to go. And I checked the hotel price, and they always ask for minimum 2 nights because it's over the weekend. $800 a night.
Yeah. Wow.
And the cheapest I found was actually way down by Twin Cities, and it's $350. I would have to get up 3 o'clock in the morning to drive 2 hours anyway. So I actually got up 2 o'clock in the morning and drove up. It's only 3 hours. I drove up, watched the race, drove back on the same day. But the Grandma's Marathon's doing well, and Ron Dawes is an interesting story because he passed away. It was 1992, Barcelona Olympic year. I moved here to Minnesota in 1991. I wrote to him. I got his address, and I can't remember how I got it, but I wrote to him. And his wife later told me she doesn't recall ever receiving that letter, so it was probably got lost somewhere. Otherwise, she said he would have responded back to me. But I knew he was in Twin Cities, and now I'm in the Twin Cities, and it's one of those things. Oh, I can meet him any day. Next year he died. So I never had a chance. But I became very close friends with Steve Hogue. Because in a way, I couldn't meet with Ron Dawes. So next in line was Steve. So I went to his and I asked his autograph in Ron Dawes' Self-Made Olympian, but Steve got really embarrassed. And I said, oh, why do I have to sign? So I never got it, but we became very close. In fact, Steve served as the board member for 5 Circles for a number of years. So.
Very cool. Good luck with everything. Hope the healing keeps up. 8 weeks is not that far away.
Yeah, hope so too. I need to post an update on Facebook, which I read, but I should.
Thank you very much for your time and for doing this. This will help encourage some other people. And Jackie Hansen, I've interviewed.
She seems like a really nice person.
Well, she is so cool. Yeah, she is so cool. Yeah, I really like her, and what a story she has. I think they need to make a movie about her and her coach. Yeah, Laszlo Tabori. Anyhow, thank you very much for your time.
Coach Squires, he said, oh, I should write a book, Gossip of Track and Field.
Yeah, that's what I thought Bob Hodge was doing with his book.
I went to visit Jeff Johnson before Arthur passed away. So it must have been 2002, 2003. Because Jeff Johnson was the first person that actually called me when he found out that Arthur passed away. It was at night. Next morning, he called me and, I thought, God, what a nice guy. Interesting thing, his house, he's got 70 acres in New Hampshire. And his address, I can't remember the number, but it's on Poverty Road.
That's great.
But anyway, I said to Dick, I'm going to see Jeff Johnson. And he goes, Jeff, tell Jeff that it wasn't me who trashed the hotel room.
That's great. Great.
The Athletics West days.
Very funny. Very cool. Thank you very much for your time.
We can go on. So,
maybe a year from now with the progress with RA, we can do an update and some more stories.
Sounds good. Deal. All right. Thank you. Keep in touch. Yep. Thanks.
I hope you enjoyed another episode of Running in the 70s. Voices, stories, and memories of athletes who were running in the 70s. Until next time, wherever you are, keep looking forward and don't forget to look back.